Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and today's focus is going to be Tearlaments post the February 2023 Forbidden and Limited list. I recently took this deck to my locals this past weekend, and I actually did pretty well. I went 3-1, only losing to Kashtira, but I was able to beat decks like Sprite, Labyrinth, and just like a 60-card wombo deck. It's a locals, so it shouldn't be like too serious, you know? But I think the deck performed really well, but I was also able to see like a lot of the downsides it had, such as it being extremely luck-based as of late. But even so, like I said, I still think it's a really solid deck. And with that out of the way, let's jump straight into the deck profile. So starting off with the monsters, we're going to be playing 3 Tearlaments Kashtira. This is the newest card the deck got from Photon Hypernova, and you basically banish any Tearlament card from your hand or grave to special summon it, and then when it's normal or special summoned, you can make either player mill 3. And then if it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can mill 2 more cards. This is going to be our main method to getting cards into the graveyard because of the fact that it's at 3 and it's fairly easily searchable in this deck. The only downside to playing Tearlaments Kashtira is that you can't use it for any of the actual, useful fusion summons because of the fact that it's not only water, but it's a psychic, which does not mesh well with the rest of the Tearlaments. But that's honestly okay because we don't care about that. We mainly just want it for milling. And then after that, we're going to be playing 1 Merrli, 1 Havnis, and 1 Scheiren because they're all limited. But in addition to that, we're only going to be playing 1 Reinoheart. I honestly don't think Reinoheart's all that great right now because it consistently needs 2 cards for you to do anything. So you're going to have to send your Tearlament monster, and then you're going to need another card that's not Reinoheart or like Kashtira Tearlaments, for example, in order to actually be able to fusion summon. And yeah, honestly, this is more like a normal summon late into your plays instead of starting off with it. So I'm just going to play this at 1. I really don't think you need more than that. And then after that, we're going to be playing 2 King of the Swamps. This is the newest addition to the deck. You discard it, you add a poly, and then because it's an aqua type, you're able to use it to fusion summon for your Keldo Heart, or because of its other effect, you can also use it to summon your Roll Coloss, which is pretty helpful in helping you maintain board advantage because Roll Coloss negates monster effects, and then you have Keldo Heart, which shuffles back monsters. This is easily a card that I should have played 3 of, just because you always want, even if you don't see it in hand, you always want to be milling it as often as possible in order to make sure that your graveyard effects are able to resolve as often as possible, if that makes sense. And then after that, we're still playing the Agido cards. So we're going to be playing 1 Kelbek, 1 Agido, those are your main millers, and then we have the 2 shufflers and Mudora and Keldo. Not much to say, their good cards are good. Sometimes they can be a brick, but it's okay because this deck has very easy access to Scheiren, so you can discard them and then just pretty much just go straight plus in after milling 3 with Scheiren and then 5 more. And the shufflers are still really good because a lot of decks currently in this format, outside of Kashtira, and even then to like a lesser extent, need their graveyard in order to do something. And then next, we're going to play some unconventional cards, starting with 2 Destiny Hero Malicious. This deck is, in a sense, kind of like a rank 6 turbo deck. And Malicious helps fill that role very nicely because it does so many things. So you can fusion with it, you can Xyz with it, you can tribute it. It's just a fantastic card to have, and I'm really glad I added it to it because it just adds another dimension to the deck. And for that same reason, we also play 1 Destiny Hero Denier, just a free extender that helps recycle your Malicious to help feed your rank 6 plays or fusion summons or whatever you may need to do. And then we're also going to be playing 1 Blackwing Zephyros. I feel this card's actually really cool now because you're able to mill this, right? And then what I'd like to do is I like to bounce back Tearlaments Kashtira, and then with this, you typically have another level 4 on the field, typically like a Scheiren. So you go into Time Thief Redoer, and then you can detach the Scheiren for its effect in order to fusion summon, all the while still having the Tearlaments Kashtira in your hand to be able to special summon it on your opponent's turn or your own turn whenever you feel like it. And yeah, much like Malicious, this pretty much helps extend your plays to be able to do a lot more than what the deck could without them. And then lastly, we play 1 Destrudo. Card's good. It's a dark, it special summons itself, and it helps give you synchro access. So we'll talk about more about that once we get to the extra deck. But yeah, this card does help a lot, and it's especially going to be really good again once Ancient Fairy Dragon comes out, because a lot of decks do rely on their field spells, so you can just go Ancient Fairy Dragon, pop the field spell, add yours for next turn, and then yeah. This card has like a lot of really cool utility. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and we can now move on to the spells and traps. So kicking off our spell lineup, we are of course going to be playing 3 Primeval Planet Parallel Rhino. It's pretty much your main searcher of the deck. You always want to be able to open it if you can. And then the added bonuses of being able to destroy a card your opponent controls if you shuffle a Tearlaments monster back into the deck, and boost all your monsters by 500 attack is huge for helping you go for game. Then next, we will be playing 3 Tearlaments Grief. I'm a really big fan of this card, and I feel it's hugely underrated because of the fact it's basically emergency teleport, but for Tearlaments. And how it works is you special summon a Tearlament monster or a Visa Starfrost, and then you send one monster you control to the graveyard that has the same type or attribute. So, say you have like a malicious or a zephyros on field, you can activate Tearlaments Grief, and then you can special summon Merrli, send the whatever it may be, and then mill 3. Or, even if you don't have a monster on field, you're still able to activate Tearlaments Grief, because whatever you summon is going to be able to satisfy the condition of having to send something that's the same type of attribute. So, a really cool combo that you can do is special summon Tearlaments Reinoheart, send Tearlaments Reinoheart on resolution of this card, then in the grave you're going to activate Tearlaments Reinoheart's effect again to special summon itself, discard something like a Suliak or whatever you may need, and mill one of your either your fusioners, or you can send a Tearlaments Kashtira to try and mill 2 more. So there's like a lot of really cool uses that you can get out of this card. And then after that, we are going to be playing 3 Foolish Burial Goods. This is also one of your main starters. You always want to be able to see this, much like you want to be able to see your field spell constantly, because this is going to be able to send Tearlaments Suliak, which in turn gets you to any Tearlament monster you may need. And typically you're going to want to add Tearlaments Kashtira, because you're going to be banishing the Suliak to summon the Kashtira, and then you're going to mill 3 more. And then since this is usually happening very early in your combo, you're typically going to mill a Tearlaments Grief, and with Tearlaments Grief's second effect, if it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can add one of your banished traps to your hand. So you're going to go ahead and just add the banished Suliak, and then you're just going to be able to pretty much continue with your plays. It's just, yeah, there's so much utility that these cards offer you, it's insane. And I definitely feel like these are staples going forward. Next up, we're going to be playing 3 Book of Eclipse. I'm constantly going back and forth whether I want to play this or Nibiru, because they both have their uses, but they both also have like a lot of downside. The downsides of Book of Eclipse specifically are that Kashtira players are starting to lock down every single spell and trap card zone, so this card's going to become more ineffective. And this card's also weak to Ash, which a lot of people are currently playing. But if you play Nibiru, for example, you might end up getting paired against Labyrinth, and that card does literally nothing to them. And even then, if you do get paired against Kashtira, they could just make Tearlaments a Reinoheart using 3 materials, and that's still 4 summons. So, yeah, it's pretty much like a pick your poison type of deal. I've ultimately elected to go with Book of Eclipse, but I'm constantly going back and forth on which one I much rather prefer to play. And then next, we're going to be playing 2 Tearlaments Scream. This card's great. If you have it in your hand, it basically gives you 3 more additional draws while lowering your opponent's attacks by 500 until the end of the turn. And then if you're able to mill it, it also adds you a trap card. So you can either add your Suliak or, which I will be showing you later in the deck profile, Meta Noise. Yeah, this card's just a great utility card, whether you mill it or open it. And then after that, we're going to be playing 1 Tearlaments Heartbeat. This is by far the most easily cuttable card, but with how popular Labyrinth is, I feel like you definitely need to play at least 1. But if there's anything that I would cut, it's probably this, and I would cut it for the 3rd King of the Swamp that I mentioned earlier. But still, even if you don't want to, this card's still really good because you're able to spin back any back row when you typically want to hit something like if you're playing against Labyrinth, you want to hit away their field spell, and if you're playing against Kashtira, you're gonna want to spin back their bird so that they can't banish your spells and traps or get free normal summons at level 7s. And then its additional effect, if it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can add any of your milled trap cards from your graveyard to your hand. But yeah, we typically don't use it for that effect. We typically want to like spin or yeah, just get the free discard from hand by spinning a spell and trap. And then after that, we're going to be playing one Called by the Grave, because it's Called by the Grave, and you don't want to get shifted, even though a lot of people are not playing that anymore. But you also don't want to get Ash Blossomed, or just, yeah, it's all bad. So we play the one Called by. Then we play the one Foolish Burial. There's a lot of things that you can send, so it's really dependent on like how your hand is when you open it, or if like the time that you actually draw into this. Like if it's late game, you've probably already gone through all your Shizu cards, right? So you're gonna want to send like a Tearlaments Fusioner, for example, and just continue your plays through that. Or you can also send like your Destiny Heroes, the Destrudo, the Zephyros. Just there's so many cards that you can do that this card can take advantage of, and it's just fantastic. And then lastly, we're gonna be playing the one Polymerization, because it's Polymerization, and we play King of the Swamp. Yeah, not much to say. It helps you fusion summon and get your plays off. And for the traps, we're just playing two Tearlaments Suliak, pretty standard for the most part. It's incredibly easy to get to your hand, whether you add it from Grave with Heartbeat, or you get it from your Banished Zone with Grief, or you just hard draw it. And then its effect of being able to add any Tearlament monster is huge, because it helps get your engine going. Yeah, it's just fantastic. And then we're going to be playing one Tearlaments Meta Noise. If this one is milled, it adds any Tearlament monster from your grave to your hand, but we typically don't want to use that effect. What we do want to use it for, however, is when we play against Kashtira, and if we control a face-up Tearlament monster or Visa Starfrost, we can essentially Book a Moon their monster, and then we can mill any Tearlament monster from our deck to the graveyard. So we get a book, and then we get a free fusion summon, and that's typically more than enough to end their turn. So yeah, with that finishes our main deck. It's 40 cards, because you want to be as consistent as possible with your mills, even though this is like a luck-based deck. I wouldn't change it any other way besides adding the one King of the Swamp and maybe taking out the Heartbeat. So with that, we can now finally move on to the extra deck portion. So kicking off the extra deck, we are of course going to be playing the two Tearlament monsters we're still allowed, being Kaleidoheart and Rokolos. Rokolos is still really good because a lot of decks actually still need to resolve an effect to be able to special summon, and this also helps you play through Nibiru, which is incredibly popular as of late, thanks to Kashtira being one of the best decks. And then you also have Tearlaments Kaleidoheart being able to dismantle your opponent's board by shuffling away a card. And you typically want to pair this with the field spell, because shuffling away a card and destroying a card goes a long way in helping you win the game. And its additional effect of being able to special summon itself when it's sent by a card effect, and then being able to foolish any Tearlament monster from your deck to the graveyard is huge, because it helps you keep up advantage and just be able to pretty much overall just consistently outgrind your opponent. Then after that, we are of course going to be playing Super Poly targets. So while we don't play Super Poly in the main, we still play it in the side. And so because of that, they're going to be playing the one Mudragon of the Swamp, one Dragostapelia, and one Garura. And even though Super Poly is in the side, we're still more than capable of making every single one of these cards game one. And we typically do, because we have Mudragon to help us play against decks that target a lot. Then we also have it as like a free rank 4 fodder, so you can make Dweller, Redoer, whatever. And then you have Dragostapelia, which is Dragostapelia. You're always going to make this on your opponent's turn to negate their monster's effects. But Garura is by far the most important because of the fact that it's level 6. And as I mentioned earlier, this is basically like a rank 6 turbo deck, as the rank 6s are incredibly important in helping you like maintain advantage and actually get your plays going. And then we're not done with the fusions just yet. We're going to be playing one Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. This card's really easy to make, whether you make it the hard way with Polymerization, and there's also another card in the extra deck that allows us to pretty much just make this whenever we want. But it's still not the most important Destiny Hero in the extra deck. What is the most important Destiny Hero is Dangerous. And you make this by just fusing away one Destiny Hero plus one Dark Effect monster. So if you mill like a Malicious or a Denier, you just fuse it away with one of your Tearlaments monsters and you make this instantly. And then this card is great because you discard any card and then you foolish Destiny Hero monster. So you can discard really impactful cards like Zephyros, Destrudo, Agido, Kelbek, or whatever. And then you can still send back the Malicious or the Denier that you used to fusion summon, or it's just... yeah, this card just does everything. And then since it's a level 6, it also helps you go into your Link 6 or your rank 6s, which is huge for this deck. But we're not going to touch on those just yet. Instead, we're going to go straight to the Link monsters. And starting off with that, we're going to be playing one Sprite Sprint, This is by far the worst one in the deck. I'm 100% cutting this for dark the next chance I get, because I don't know, it's weird, because every time you have a chance to make this, you've typically already used your Merrli's effect, and you never really take advantage of the other effect of detaching detaching a card to bounce a monster. It's just bad. And yeah, I don't like it at all. I'd much rather just play the Dark Charmer instead. But a link to that I do enjoy is Proxy F Magician, which just takes 2 effect monsters, and then you basically are allowed to fusion summon using any materials on your side of the field. So this is the main way that you can typically make destroy your Phoenix Enforcer, because malicious and denier can summon themselves, and then you just make this. And then it has an added bonus of, if a monster is fusion summoned to a zone it points to, you're able to special summon any monster from your hand with 1,000 attack or less. So if you, for example, have like a Merrli in your hand, you can go special enforcer to a zone this points to, then special summon a Merrli, then mill 3 more. So yeah, this card is just really good. And then after that, we're going to be playing 1 Synchro monster in the form of FA Dawn Dragster. As mentioned earlier, once Ancient Fairy Dragon comes out, you can potentially replace that with the you can potentially replace this with the Ancient Fairy Dragon, but for now I think Dawn Dragster is just way better, because being able to negate a spell or trap is huge in the current format, especially with like the extra protection that it gives you from cards like Evenly Matched and just all these incredible going second cards. But as I said, if you want, you could replace this with Ancient Fairy Dragon just to be able to get rid of your opponent's field spell and set yourself up for the next turn. But I still think Dawn Dragster is really good. And then finally we can get to the XYZs. We'll of course play staples like Time Thief Redoer. Really good if you have Scheiren, because it helps you trigger your Scheiren effects. And just being able to take the top card of your opponent's deck and potentially get like a free draw or a free bounce is huge. And then we're still going to be playing the 1 Abyss Dweller. I like it, honestly. It's really good against Branded. It's okay against Labyrinth. It doesn't do anything to Kashtira, but we're not making this against Kashtira. It's just those 2 other matchups, especially when you pair this with like Keldo and Agido. It does so much for the deck. But and then our last rank 4 is number 41 Baguska. This card's beyond awful. It's worthless in every matchup except for maybe Branded, but like this deck already has like a really easy time against Branded, if I'm being honest. But what it doesn't have a good time against is Labyrinth and Kashtira, and this card is just not good, because Kashtira is able to run this over fairly easily with their Tearlament, or not, with their Kashtira Scareclaw, I believe, which is the one that they summon in defense and acts like a super heavy samurai, as it's able to attack while in defense. And then Labyrinth is a trap deck, so they just don't care about this card at all. What I would replace this for is 1 Guardian Chimera, 100% guaranteed. I don't know why I didn't play before, but I will now going forward. And yeah, so that's it for the XYZs, for the rank 4s anyways. And then we still have our 2 last 6s, starting off with Willow, founder of the Judge Dragons. This card's actually really cool, because it has 2 effects, or I guess 3 effects. So the first one is that every single monster you control gains 100 attack and defense for each card in your opponent's graveyard. And since we're playing cards like Kelbek and Agido, at minimum, our opponent is always going to have 10 cards in their grave. So you're going to be getting an 1,000 point boost. But that's not the only thing it does. So depending on how many materials you detach from this card, you can either target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard and return it to the deck. So that's basically like a mini shuffler. And that's really cool. Or if you detach 2, you can set that card to your field. Or if it's a monster, you can special summon it in face-up defense. Yeah, this card is honestly crazy, and it's an incredible game ender. And it's really helpful in helping us get over those types of decks that just pretty much sit on like gigantic boss monsters, whether it's Ignister or Mekk-Knight Avermax. This card will 100% out that card every single time. And then lastly, we're going to be playing 1 Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. What can I say? Having controlled milling is great. You can send literally anything, and there's tons of cards in this deck that you're going to be able to play. So yeah, why not play Beatrice? It's probably easily top 3 extra deck monsters in this deck, as you always want to be able to summon this as soon as you can, because being able to send an Ishizu card, a Destiny Hero, a Tearlament, and being able to do it once on your turn and once on your opponent's turn is just, it's huge, honestly. I cannot understate this enough. And with that, that's the Tearlament deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!